let's go all the way to Washington, D.C. Do remember we have our correspondents there, Juliana Olayinka and Sarah Chimugo. They've been there for a couple of days. We had Juliana yesterday, had a report from Sarah. They've been really busy right there, keeping us up to date on the meetings going on in Washington, D.C. But now we have, joining us from there, the Minister of Finance, Nigeria's Minister of Finance. And I must say, he is speaking for African ministers at this time. He was given that position, leading them at the last meeting in Marrakesh, Morocco. So, good afternoon, Minister, Mr. Wale Edun. Thank you for your time. I know it's morning there at this time. How has it been?
Thank you very much. And as you say, it is morning here, but good afternoon to you all. We're here in Washington, the President's economic team, myself, the Governor of Central Bank, and senior finance and economic officials. And we're here to we are going to start today, it's going to kick off today, the annual spring meetings of the World Bank IMF Group. And of course, it's a gathering of the international elite, the international financial elite. We have the multilateral development institutions, World Bank, IMF, but also the bilaterals, the UK, the US, Germany, Europe. We have all those around the table discussing issues of, together with, of course, the developing countries. And on the agenda is development, is climate change, how to end extreme poverty, and of course, how to garner the resources internationally in order to achieve those goals. But secondly, and perhaps most importantly, the economic team of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is here to showcase the progress so far of his bold, courageous, and strategic reforms of the Nigerian economy in order to get it stabilized and get investment in to get it growing again. So, of course, we are here to emphasize what has been done so far. We've all seen what has happened in terms of stabilizing the exchange rate, and inflation, though it's still ticking up, is headed in the right direction. If you look closely at the numbers that came out yesterday, you'll see that there is a slowing of the rate of increase of food inflation. So things are moving in the right direction. Government revenues are up, even oil revenues are up, though not as much as we would like. So we're here really to present what the president has done so far and give an indication of what is to come. And I think also to give a sense of the optimism that is really the mood in Nigeria right now. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So obviously the administration of President Bola Tinubu has been receiving a lot of accolades from IMF and World Bank, as you have noted, in the direction. But what's next as you go there? You go there to present, okay, some of the fruits of the reforms. Of course, we are still expecting more as Nigerians. We still need a whole lot more. But what's next? What do you hope to come back home with as you begin conversations?
Thank you. Certainly. What is next is what matters most, and there's still a long way to go. We have seen some good signs of recovery, good signs that we're going in the right direction, but there is much more is needed before we get to achieving the real goal of Mr. President, which is growing the economy and reducing poverty. And for that, we need resources. We're here to sit around the table with financiers, multilaterals that have cheap financing, grant financing, even bilaterals, as well as to encourage investors. The important thing about these conversations here is that the world is watching, and a lot of investors, they take their cue from the kind of reactions and statements that come out from these types of gatherings. So as you've noticed, there have been very, very positive statements made about the progress that has been made, given the types of policies that have been implemented so far to come and invest in Nigeria. And we always emphasize the interest is in domestic investment, domestic Nigerians investing in the Nigerian economy, as well as, of course, foreigners who want to invest and add value are welcome.
So you also speak for Africa, Minister, because in the last IMF World Bank meeting, you were made heading the African ministers, finance ministers. So what is the agenda for Africa? I know the issue of debt and debt servicing was heavy, very heavy at that meeting, the last meeting. What is the agenda of the ministers of on the continent for this meeting?
Essentially, what Africa wants, particularly from the multilateral institutions, is what I would call a better deal, lower financing charges, more resources. For instance, when you look at climate change, when you look at global warming, Africa accounts for maybe 3% or less of the world's global warming, yet Africa suffers from the effects of climate change much more disproportionately, and therefore it is looking for much more help in that direction, much more technical, much more resources being provided, and essentially at the end of the day, much more help for the smaller countries, the coastal countries that are suffering so much from flooding and other effects of climate change. So really, Africa is here for a better deal from the world economy and from the managers of the world economy.
All right, Minister Wale Edun, thank you so much for your time. And we do wish you a successful deliberation right there. And I hope when you're coming back with a lot of promises that will be fulfilled, financial promises that will be fulfilled. But do take care right there.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so it's going to be a full package as conversations begin at the spring meetings in Washington, D.C. We do have, of course, our correspondents who are keeping us up to date and arranging interviews such as the ones you have seen right now. But now let's take a break on Business Incorporated. When we come back on the other side, talking about intra-African trade, which the minister talked about. Former President Obasanjo asked for that. We'll get details and more on the other side of the show.